Hi everyone, my name is Huy. This video is the representation and demo for our web project for CS476. My web project partner is Bao. So nowadays, finding a job is very difficult for the majority of job seekers. And since the cost of living keep rising while the wage hardly catch up, people who work part-time or low-wage jobs tend to work more than one job to supplement their income. Finding a second job is also an issue from so many reasons. Therefore, an alternative method becomes popular that is looking for a temporary job. The need for non-permanent laboring jobs is always stable and even rising compared to other permanent jobs. From the perspective of employers, this type of work is sometimes preferred over hiring a permanent worker as well. In some occasions, they also need someone temporarily to do small tasks such as shoveling driveways, cutting grass, housekeeping, babysitting, dog sitting, or even cat sitting. These tasks are suitable for people who don't have a stable schedule or only want to make extra money when they can, like for students and veterans. Because these tasks are extremely flexible, easy to do, and do not require commitment. Hence, we built a web application that acts as a job platform for our users to find and offer tasks. We named the app Task Heroes. The main functionalities of the web application includes sign up, log in, log out, edit user profile to set your information, and also describe about yourself and your skills, post a new task with requirements, money offered, and the work period required to complete the task. You can also view users, view task, and you can set your interest in particular task to view it later in your user profile. And the two most important entities of the app are user and task. So at the home page, before logging in, you can view some task cards and some user cards with the default profile picture instead of the real user profile picture. The task detail and the hero profile buttons are for viewing detailed information of the task and of the user. So let's go with the first flow is the sign up. For signing up, you just need your email, username, and password. Let's go with Tony Stark. And password is test123, test123, sign up. It will direct you to the login page, and so there are two different flows. One is the login for task seeker. Task seeker are the people who look for the jobs, and login for task offerer that are for the people who want to post jobs. Let's go with the task seeker flow first. We will use the newly created user. So after you log in as a task seeker, at the home page you will see the cards of the tasks that are currently available. So let's try to set up to fill out your user profile first. So because you only sign up with your username, email, and password, there's still a lot of field to fill out in your user profile. You can click the edit profile button to fill out the fields. Email address, you just leave it, and the description. Let's copy and paste from here. Oh, let's try again. First name, start, Regina, escape. And after you submit, the details you just fill out will appear on your user profile, like that. And the two other parts is, first one is the interesting tasks, which are the list of tasks that you are interested in. And the posting history is the list of tasks that you offered as an offerer. So let's go back to home page and try to find some task. Let's say if you're interested in this task, you can view more details about it. So this is the task title, its description with like requirements and what the task is for. And the work type is for a permanent job. The offer it is $20 and week period is like 20 hours. And if this task sounds interesting to you, you click on the interested task button to view it later in your user profile. Let's click on that. And then so you set your interest in the lab instructor task, and you can view it again in your profile here. So if you click on this link, you'll be able to review that task. So now let's try out the second flow as the task offerer. So I just log out. So now let's log in again as task offerer. Tony Stark. Test 1, 2, 3. Log in. So when you log in as the offerer, instead of seeing the task cards, now you will see the user cards of different user. So they will have very basic information, names, description, the rating, and the date when they became a member. So let's say you are interested in this member. You can view their profile by clicking this button. So when you view all the user profile, you'll be able to view very basic information. You cannot see their locations or their email, but you'll be able to contact them through the contact button. So if you click this button, it will try to create a new email by using your default mail application of your machine. And so for a task offerer, let's try posting a new task. You need to fill out just some basic information like title, description, the job type, the money offer, and the work period. So task title, let's copy and paste some every period. Let's say you're looking for someone to help you moving on April 1st. Descriptions. You fill out looking for someone to help moving on April 1st, the requirements, locations, and contact information. And a job type, it is going to be a one-time task. And the money offered, let's say $50 for 6 hours. And let's create that task. And it will appear in your posting history. Yeah. So it will take you back to your user profile, and now you can see it in your posting history. And you can view the details of that task again. Yeah. These are the details that you filled in earlier. So now let's try logging in as a different user and try to view this task. So now, let's try logging in as a task seeker as test 1 2 3, test 1 2 3. That's a different user that created before. Log in, and now you can see the task that you just created in the homepage. You can view details, and you can also set interested in that task. If you go to user profile, you see it now in the interesting task list. This is the posting history of this user, not of Tony Stark. So that is the end of the demonstration of the app. So now just log out first. Okay. Next is the technical side of the applications. So the technology we use is the ASP.NET MVC, where the view will be the UI, the controller is where the events are handled. The model contains the data that is displayed in the view UI, and is also the data that the controller manipulates, like work with. Uh, and the database that we use is like we set up an SQL Server database in AWS. Then for front end, we mainly use CSS HTML for the views, CSS for styling, and JavaScript for some event handlers and listeners. For backend, we only use C# with the use of Entity Framework to work with the database. Entity Framework is a very useful mapper that allows you to manipulate tables in your database. You don't have to write SQL queries or command. Instead, you can just use some link method to query, update, delete, add records to your tables. Also, Entity Framework allows the application to connect and access the database very easily. The setup is quite simple, that you only have to set a connection string in a config file, and when the application starts up, it will use the connection string to connect to the database and create a database context for you to work with the data. And about design patterns, our two main design patterns are chain of responsibilities and query command separation. So first, chain of responsibilities, that is a behavioral design pattern that lets you pass requests along a chain of handlers. Upon receiving a request, each handler decides either to process the request or to pass it to the next handler in the chain. So you need to order different events in the chain, and some events must happen first. So let's go with some examples. The first one is the loading of the homepage. So when user open the applications, the first thing we'll load is the homepage. Prior to the loading actions, home controller, which controls the behaviors of the homepage, pulls a list of user and a list of tasks from the database. And in order to do that, it passed the request to the iQuery handler, which is an interface which will pass the request along to a get list of posting and users query handlers. And the request is processed at that query handler level. The handler will access the database directly and return a list of user and a list of tasks. Then the home page will load with the data pulled from the database. The second example is of the login flow. For logging in, the controller for homepage, it sends a request to the login controller, then to the query handler to check if the username and password is in the database. Signing up is also quite similar to login because like both actions use the same controller, which is the login controller. Instead of query handler, for signing up, the controller sends the request to a command handler, which will insert user data into the database. And beside the chain of responsibility design pattern, so when implementing the queries to get and store data from the database, our group also use a different pattern that helps the query structure to be reusable and less of error prone. It is called the command query separation, which is also called CQS for short. It has two main principles. The first one, every method should either be a command that performs an action like update, add, delete, or a query that returns data to the caller, but never both, which means that a command can never return data to the caller, and a query cannot do any updating actions, cannot make any change to the database. And that is the most important principle of this pattern. The second principle is methods should return a value only if they create no side effects. And following is the structure of our CQS. The base of CQS are the interfaces. We have 4 interfaces. for the command handler, query, and query handlers. And we have 4 different folders for command handlers, commands, query, and query handlers. And these classes will have the corresponding interfaces like in their name, like this command handler will inherit from the I command handler interface. And to dive deeper into the relationship between the handlers and the command and query, I will take you to the code. So let's say we try to get a particular task by its ID. So we'll need a query. We'll have a get task by ID query and a get task by ID query handler. So query and command are just parameters that we'll use by their handlers. So this get task by ID query has only one parameter, which is the task ID, and this one will be used to get the task. And in the get task by ID query handler, it will, like when it handle the task and when it handle the actions, it will use the parameter of the query to get the task, like this one. And also, we should note that the database context is present in all of the handlers by a dependency injection. And similarly for command, let's say we want to insert a new task. So we will have a insert new task command and insert new task command handler. So for the command, it will contain the parameters that represent the new task to be inserted. That will be the title, the description, the job type, money offer, work period, and offerer ID. So these parameters will be used to create a new task and add into the database by the handler. So in the insert new task command handler, when it handles the actions, it will use the parameters from the command to create a new task. Here's the mapping, and then it adds that new task to the task table and it saves the changes. So that's the relationships between like query with query handler and command with command handlers. CQS like give our applications a very good separation of concerns, that there is no unexpected change made to the database unless it's meant to do so, because like query can never do updating actions and task can never return data to the caller. And that is the final piece of our representation. Thank you very much for listening. I hope everyone have a good day.